Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very excited to introduce to you to Washington Kapipiro. He is Chief Executive Chairman for Africa Procurement Group. He has traveled all over the world, lived in London, still lives in between SA and London, and is originally Zimbabwean. And those of you that know, if you're watching anything on social media, watching my tweets, etc., you'll know that I love the Zimbabweans. They are very driven people, hardworking, and salt of the earth. So we are very privileged to have you on board here today. Washington, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. I know you are busy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Charlotte.
So we're going to talk about a sensitive topic. Over the past 70 odd years, women empowerment has evolved, and it has still to this day still got a lot of activism in it. And I was wondering if you, as a man, a successful businessman, would like to share with us what you have seen the changes happening in the past, say, 10 years or so, from when women empowerment originally became quite a challenge for the world.
Well, thank you so much. It's a subject that's close to my heart. As you may or may not know, I hosted the first conference for African women in business in the UK in 2010. And we since ran a few of those conferences with the support of the UK government. Theresa May was one of our supporters at the time. We've also since launched the Century Women Initiative with the Global Africa Business Club. And I've kept a keen eye on the trend, and we've observed that there's been more awareness, there's been more sort of acceptance of the idea of women empowerment, and I think a lot of countries, governments, institutions, corporates, etc., have put measures in place to try and address it. So there's a bit more movement in the space, but I think a lot more needs to be done.
And in South Africa in particular, and in Zimbabwe in particular, what have you noticed as to what is shifting there? Is it as slow as the rest of the world, or are we picking up speed?
Yeah, the question you ask is interesting because I presented this matter to can you shut the door? I presented this matter to the Home Office in the UK when I consulted on the subject, and we said to them that we cannot have the whole agenda being sabotaged by culture. So we find that women empowerment and traditional African cultures tend to clash. So what we've seen, what I've observed anyway, in my travels across Africa, is that a lot of women who are leaving their sort of traditional homestead tend to get empowered outside of their traditional homesteads. When you're in your village or in your homestead, where you come from, your village, etc., you have to observe cultural norms, which make it very difficult to be empowered. But now that we're in corporate Africa, I'm seeing a lot more empowerment happening, which is a positive trend.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Do you have a message that you would share to any woman who would like to equal the balance? And I avoid the word equality because it's really is about a balance. It's not about something that needs to be totally equal. It can just be a better balance. Do you have any words of advice that you would say to any woman or men in this space, or to both of them, as to how they could approach the future with this
Mm.
balance in their mind, given that a lot of culture
Well,
is a hindering factor?
mm, my way, my approach to it is very simple and very direct. Um, let's observe the skill set. I think it comes down to what we call the skill set, what I've coined the skill set, not far from what a normal skill set is. You tend to find that a woman is equally capable in most fields. We're not looking or talking about people who are inferior or not incapable of performing uh, tasks in the modern workplace. But I think the women themselves, in a lot of instances, also need to know that. I think a lot of the empowerment is more in encouraging and creating an enabling environment. Because as long as they are encouraged and they're encouraged and enabled and enabled, we tend to see that women do exceedingly well in the empowerment space. So, a message to men: be enabling, be encouraging, don't be intimidated. A message to women: be courageous, be brave, be bold, don't be intimidated by these guys and their deep voices.
Thank you, Washington. Thank you so much. Have an awesome weekend. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and those words of encouragement are going to echo long and strong. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.